Hello Stoke community, welcome to Foundry Essentials. This next set of tutorials that should run with each episode of Primetime UGC will be a back to basics special. We're going to go back to the very basics of the Foundry and do a walkthrough. And hopefully this walkthrough will benefit new Foundry authors, people who are struggling to learn the toolset, and people who may be frustrated with the existing tutorials because they're now outdated. So what I'm going to do in this short tutorial is I'm just going to give a very basic introduction to the Foundry, and the next set of tutorials we're going to start building our mission together, and by the end of it we'll both have missions constructed and you should have a pretty good understanding of how the Foundry works. Okay, so this is where you start. This is the first screen, and you'll want to click Create Content. And before you get to this point, if you're a brand new Stoke player, you should have at least played the tutorial and earned 10,000 dilithium. You're going to need the dilithium to buy project slots if you're a free-to-play player. So you'll see this screen. If it's your first time logging in, you may have some character slots, or you may need to buy Foundry project slots. As far as I know, if nothing has changed, silver players, which are the free-to-play players, get 0 Foundry slots, so they have to buy Foundry slots with 10,000 dilithium. Gold members who do subscribe to the game get 8 slots. So once you have your slots, and once you have your character, you'll log on. And I should say that when you think about this character, don't even worry about it. I mean, once we entered that screen, we went right to the Foundry, so nothing that we do with this character is going to affect the normal game. It's really just a throwaway character that we create in order to test our maps. It doesn't take away from your other character slots in the main game. It's simply just a toon that you need to create in order to test your Foundry missions. And I should also say that if you're building a Federation mission, you need to have a Federation toon. And if you're building a Klingon mission, you need to have a Klingon toon, because you can't use a Fed to test a Klingon mission and vice versa. So if you've decided to build a Federation mission, create a Federation toon and then create a new project. And when you create a new project, you can specify that is Starfleet and give the project a name. Now you can change the name at any time, so you can give it just some kind of random name. I've already created the project that I want to use, and so I'll go ahead and load that now. Okay, so here we are. This is the opening screen of the Foundry. Up here it tells you your mission is not published. There's your mission name. Here's a project ID, which is a unique designation of your mission. You can specify the language. You can also change the allegiance of your mission. This description box is the first thing that a Stowe player will see when they're browsing UGC missions. So we'll deal with that later when we really finish our mission and we're ready to sell it to the public. We'll deal with this screen. This screen is just simply private author notes, so don't worry about it or put stuff in there to remind yourself later. Players will never see whatever you put in this box. On this side of the Foundry, this is where all the action happens. Now you'll notice immediately when you launch the Foundry, it has all these errors. Not necessarily errors, but gentle reminders that, hey, you need to do this, you need to do that, you need to do this. And it's basically telling you what you need to do before you publish your mission. And that is, this information must be filled in, which refers to the description. This box needs to be filled in. You need to specify a costume, etc., etc. We'll deal with all that later. Don't worry right now about the tasks that it tells you to complete. We can take care of all of that later. Now, here you'll notice we have various tabs. This is the tab that you originally started on. Here is what we call the storyboard. This is where all your objectives are laid out. And you'll notice the objectives here on the right. The objectives really start right here with interact with object. You can interact with an object on a map, you can kill enemies on a map, you can have a dialogue, or interact with a pop-up dialogue. We'll deal with the differences of that later. Or you can reach a marker, and a marker is a circle basically a radius that a player has to reach in order to advance the story. Now, with the Season 6 updates, Cryptic has done a lot where you can work mainly in the Story tab. I wouldn't really recommend it. It's kind of confusing and it's counterproductive in some ways to really start here. Instead, you'll probably want to start with the Maps tab. You'll want to create your maps, you'll want to put all the stuff on your maps and create the characters for your maps, put all the stuff in place before you really get going with, hey, go talk to this person, or hey, go talk to that person. So that's the difference between the Story tab and the Map tab. The Story tab consists of a bunch of tasks, and that just tells the Foundry, hey, player needs to go do this, followed by go do that. The Map tab is where you'll spend most of your time, because you'll spend most of your time just building sets or putting down objects or changing triggers and all that stuff. And you'll also notice there are different types of maps that you can create. So if we create a map, we could create a space map. And this option we can make a custom map. So you can put the planet in yourself, you can put the backdrop, which is kind of like the sky of space. You can put that in, etc. Or you have these pre-made maps, which are cryptic maps. And those load for you with all the details in them, and you can use them as you see fit. There are also outdoor maps. You don't have the ability to customize these, but you have quite a few of the alien ones, and the Borg and Crystal Cities, and all these different maps that you can use for your mission. Or you have indoor maps, which are interiors. We'll get into that more later when we actually start to build our mission. But that is the Map tab. It's where you can put spawn points, you can put respawn points, lay down your planets, put in your details, etc. And we'll deal with quite a bit of that as we go. The other tab to think about here is the Dialogue tab. Now, don't worry too much about this for now, because the game will take you to it when you need to do something with it. So don't worry about creating dialogues here and messing with this very much, because the Foundry will take you to it. The last part that we're dealing with is costumes. You don't have to create costumes for every NPC, which means the characters or the enemies in your map. You don't have to create costumes because there's lots of default cryptic costumes that you can use. And the costume tab has a pretty restrictive limitation on how many costumes you can create. But this is where you need to go if you do have a unique character that you want to create in your mission. And creating that character is very, very similar to creating your own toon in the regular game, so you shouldn't have much problems dealing with that. Otherwise, that is really my bare bones basic introduction to the Foundry. Next episode of Foundry Essentials, we'll start to build our map together, and then I'll teach you more that you need to know about item placement and all the different explanations for X, Y, and Z values. But for now, just get in here and mess around with the different tabs, and if you're feeling so bold, try to create something. Try to create a map. Or put Borg battleships in the map and just play test the map to see what they look like. Okay, this has been Foundry Essentials, Part 1 of an Introduction to the Foundry. Stay tuned for Part 2 next time, and we'll really get into the details. Okay, see ya!